Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Process. I hope you guys are having a great day. I just wanted to jump on and chat a little bit about fear. The reason why I wanted to chat about this is that it's been super top of mind for me today. I have had a few different instances just in today where I was doing something different. I was doing something that felt uncomfortable. And to be honest, I felt pretty scared. And so I thought it would be great to just capture this as it is real and raw in my head right now. I had it on my calendar to record a podcast episode today, and then there was 3 different things that happened back to back throughout my day today where I had almost convinced myself that I wasn't going to bother doing it because it had already been quite a taxing day. I had already challenged myself. And then I thought a little bit more about who I have chosen to be and become this year, and the version of myself that I want to become would recognize that this is all part of it. And what an awesome opportunity to be able to reflect on what happened today and learn from it and also grow from it and be able to potentially help someone else who might be dealing with fear right now too. So this is not planned or scripted. I'm just going to let my stream of consciousness guide the way as per usual, as I am learning how to articulate myself and be seen and be okay with just sharing my ideas as they are. So I'm not going to go into explicit detail about everything that happened today because I don't think that's necessarily relevant. But I will say that last week I invested in a business coach, someone who I have followed on Instagram for a couple of months. I really resonate and align with their messaging. And so I decided to take the leap last week and I invested. And when I invested in the course, there was an opportunity to join a cohort one-on-one with the founder of this company for a month to get support specifically from him in order to build out my funnels and to look at how I'm really setting up this business. He is extremely well known in the industry for being authentic and for showing up as you are. And of course, that's why I'm here. And so I got to attend that first call today. And this, I guess, is probably the biggest thing for me. So in this call, everyone got an opportunity to share what we are currently working on. I listened to a few other people go before me, and I was so nervous when it eventually was my turn. I think I blacked out because I wasn't exactly sure what to say. And that was very obvious because he started challenging me and asking me questions. And it was so scary. And as it was happening, I could feel myself looking at myself from out of my body, being like, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? This is so beyond you. Like these thoughts just cascading through my mind. And it was a lot. It was a lot trying to keep track of and silence all of these thoughts, but then also speak coherently to this coach that I look up to and that I aspire to be more like. And so, of course, you want to impress him. Of course, you want to have, I'll speak for myself. I wanted to have the answers and I wanted to look put together. And for me, that comes back to that fear and that story of needing to be polished before I can present anything or speak about my ideas. I would never have put my hand up to speak and share my specific thoughts so openly in any situation, really, in the past. Never in school, never really at all. Even at work, I often in the past wouldn't really put up my hand to share unless it was something I was so certain about already that I knew I had the right answer. There was always that element of, I'm just going to sit in the back and listen to what everyone else has to say. That was not an option for me today because I signed up for this program and I am flexing this muscle and I'm working specifically on this skill of being able to ship something before it's perfect and be okay with getting feedback and taking that on. It wasn't really the feedback. I was happy to have feedback, actually. I wanted to hear what he had to say. But it was more the fact that as I showed up for this meeting, and initially, I didn't have a clear idea of exactly what it was I was going to say. Excuse me. And that really scared the crap out of me. And then when he started challenging me, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But it was also a very powerful experience because I also got to watch everyone else in the call go through similar things. Some of them were more polished than me, which was fine because when I think about it, they've been doing this longer and they have more of an idea of exactly who it is that they're serving and all of that. And I'm figuring all this out. I am processing and I am documenting all of this as I'm going, as I'm learning. That's okay. That is okay. I am learning, and that's okay. So this morning was a lot. And it was also at 7 a.m. And I had another coaching call before that at 5:15 because they're based in the States. So there's a bit of a time difference. And my daughter didn't sleep a lot last night, but I think it was actually a good thing because it meant that I couldn't be in my head. I just had to show up. And there actually was an opportunity on the call where he was running out of time. And he said, I can jump back on after this other call that I have, or we can just wait till next week. And right away, I heard that voice in my head going, oh, just put it off till next week. You'll have more time to get it looking better and to have a better idea of what it is that you want to say before you present it to him. And as soon as I noticed that I had that thought, I immediately had to completely counteract it and go in the opposite direction and say, nope, I'll be here. I'll be the first one to go after the break, because that is the way that you rewire your brain, is by recognizing that pattern and interrupting it as soon as you can to when you first notice it. This takes a lot of practice. This is something that I've become increasingly aware of, especially in the past 3 or 4 years. So this wasn't my first rep. I would say if it had been, I definitely would have put off talking about it. I would have just left and not come back, because that thought, those stories in my head were so strong. They're still there. Do not get me wrong. They are absolutely still there, and they try like a motherfucker to get in my head and to control the narrative. But I didn't let them today. I didn't let the fear stop me from showing up. And it felt amazing. It was terrifying. And I don't think it went that well. There was a moment where he said, none of that made sense to me. It was like my whole brain was like, okay, goodbye. Yep, we got it wrong. Never mind. I don't want to do this anymore. Just forget that I exist. And I'm just going to do that, just like fade back into the bushes, because I can't do this. I was very tempted in that moment, specifically because the fear was so loud. This voice of, you are not good enough if you are not perfect. It's loud. It was very loud in that moment. I pushed through and I kept talking. There were elements that were better, and there's elements for me to work on. I took some notes. I don't remember much of what he said because I was so bloody nervous that I seriously do think I blacked out a little bit, but that's okay. I'm going to dive back into this worksheet tomorrow, and I'm going to see what I can come up with. And then I'll take it to him again next week, and we'll see if it's 1% better, or maybe even 5% better, because I'm intentionally taking that time to put myself out there and to say, hey, here's what I have right now. I know it's not perfect, but here's where I'm at. And recognizing more and more that that is the way to improve yourself. You can't just keep yourself locked up in a room or in your head thinking about what this thing is going to be that you're so excited about. It's so easy to convince yourself in your head when it's vague that it's a good idea or that it's going to work. And I'm not saying that it won't work, but you have to take it from being this idea in your head to existing in the physical realm. It has to be tangible. It has to be real. And you can't do that if you just keep it to yourself all the time. And that was a lesson that I practiced, a skill that I practiced today by showing up to that meeting, even though I was scared absolutely shitless. I did it. And I honestly, I'm still kind of scared. If I'm being totally real with you right now, that fear is still alive in me. I've been quite anxious today because every time I think I'm on top of those thoughts, they try to sneak back in. It's like the second I let my guard down, they're like, hang on, remember me? Remember how you actually don't think that you're ready to do this, or that your idea isn't solid enough, or that you don't have enough experience, or that you don't have the wisdom or know-how or expertise to be able to be offering this. They're still there. They are right there under the surface. But I'm continuing to show up and to move the needle and to do things that are going to help me. And recording this right now is helping me a lot because it's allowing me to just say all of this out loud and acknowledge that those thoughts are there, because it's not about trying to hide everything and to act like you're just this incredible, unbeatable, indestructible person. You can be very strong and resilient, but still have these thoughts that try to run rampant in the background. And the whole process is about you being able to recognize and then practice interrupting, and then eventually build the muscle as you do it over and over and over again. And normalizing that it does take that time to get used to it and to practice. And then you're going to get to the next level, and then you're going to have a whole new layer of fear open up. When I 6-8 months ago, before I started my speech therapy business, I had this fear around starting that for 2 years, around how it was going to be so hard and I wasn't going to have the skill and no one was going to take me seriously. And who was I to think that I could have this business? Now I think 8 months into it, and I'm loving it. And it's offered me so many opportunities to learn and to set boundaries and to challenge myself, step out of my comfort zone, learn all of these new skills, learn how to articulate what I do better. It's been amazing. And to think that I lived on the like before that, what am I trying to say? I lived on the other side of that fear for so long. And it just lived in my head. I had this idea of wanting to start this business, not knowing what would it look like. I would go back and forth between thinking, okay, this is amazing. I'm definitely going to be able to do this. It's going to give me so much flexibility and options and power and freedom and joy back in my work because I get to choose who I work with. And then at the same time, all those negative thoughts that I just mentioned of not being good enough and not ever being taken seriously and all of those other things, they coexisted. But those voices were a lot louder for me when I was on the other side of that fear, when I was letting the fear control how I decided to move and why I put off doing this myself for so long. Then when I stepped through the fear and started, I came out the other side and was like, wow, okay, this wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. This is actually pretty great. There's still elements that I don't love, and that's why I'm pivoting again. But the only way that I learned all of that was by pushing through and sitting with that fear and just getting through to the other side. But I say all of that to say, now I'm stepping into a whole new realm of fear, where that in comparison feels like nothing. I'm like, oh, that's easy. Whereas 2 years ago, if you had told me that I was going to be running a speech therapy business and now looking and building a coaching business, I would have been like, what are you talking about? I'm not someone who does that. And see, there's the story. I'm not someone who starts a business. I'm not someone who can manage 2 businesses or be able to sell myself and my services. I don't know how to do any of that. That would have been my story even 2 years ago, honestly, because I wasn't doing it. I was learning lots of this other early things about my stories and about my narratives and all those kinds of things, but I wasn't actually stepping into the business and stepping into this next level. Now I did that and I got through that level a lot faster than I thought I would. And now I'm in the next level. So it's like, okay, well, you conquered those fears. So now we've got this whole new set of bigger, scarier fears that are going to test you and stretch you in ways that you had never even considered at that previous level. And that's scary too, but it's okay. It's scary and it's okay. That was a big thing that happened today. And then I also had another couple of things. I had a psych session where we explored some stuff that was really scary for me too. And it brought up a lot of big emotions. Same kind of thing where it was something that I had been putting off talking about for a long time, brought it up. And as soon as I moved through that fear of bringing it up, I was like, oh, okay, I feel a lot better. But so often getting past that fear is the hardest part. And I know this because I've lived it. Like I just said, it took me 2 years from the point of thinking I could start a speech therapy business to actually doing it. And that's 2 years where I could have been evolving through that level and evolving myself and learning and pushing these old narratives out of the way so that I can make room for new ones. But this is my journey. This is where I'm at. And again, that's okay. It is what it is. I'm just saying that we really, really let this fear dictate so much of what we're willing to do and, more importantly, not do. But what's the cost of that? When I think about what previous versions of me would have done in that meeting today with the business coach, I would have deflected. I would have said, no worries, I'll just go next week. And what's the cost of that? I then go a whole other week without any forward momentum on this big task that he's helping us through. I have one less opportunity to grow and challenge myself and think bigger, differently about this problem I'm trying to solve. All because I was too scared to say anything. That's what the previous version of me would have done. But today, I recognize the fear. I recognize the dread and overwhelm of having to show up and talk about something that I didn't feel super confident about. And that was amazing. It felt so different in my body. It felt so affirming towards this person that I'm looking to become. It's giving my brain new evidence that I am more capable than previous versions of me is giving myself credit for. But I have to be willing to sit in that really uncomfortable middle section and act from a place of knowing that's where I want to go. I have to embody that version of myself and be okay with not getting it quite right because I'm learning. I am taking those early reps of this specific skill so that I can get to that point. But I sure as hell won't get to that point if I keep letting fear lead the way. And that's exactly what I told myself in the moment this morning when I really wanted to step back into the shadows and let everyone else do their thing. And so that is why I think that this is so important for me to capture right now. Because even though this wasn't my first rep, I would argue that it was a really important one because it wasn't as though I was just talking to a friend or a family member, someone who, the people that are closer to you, they're more likely to agree with you or to give you positive feedback because they love you and they want the best for you. And a lot of times, if they're close to you, they will likely be aligned in the ways that they think or the ways that they believe and the opinions that they have. And so it's easier to get positive feedback from them. Whereas someone like this business coach who I've never interacted with before, he doesn't know me. He was so to the point, straightforward, blunt about what he was seeing and what he wasn't seeing and where I need to focus my attention to get better. And I think we desperately need that. If you want to grow, if you're happy with the way that your life is, that's amazing. Like truly, that is amazing. And keep doing that. If you're happy with what your life looks like, absolutely keep doing that. But if you want to grow, if you want to stretch, you have to be willing to sit in the fear and to acknowledge it, but not let it run the show. You can move right alongside it. It can come with you. but you have to move anyway. You have to keep going. So that's my lesson from today. That is something that's really, really top of mind for me. And I am very scared of this whole process, to be honest. Like, we're talking about fear, let's just be real. But also really proud of myself for recognizing it and interrupting it. That is the work. That's where the change happens. The more that we can do that and the more that we can step through it into the next level is where you're going to be able to completely change your circumstance and ultimately completely change your life. So I hope that that was helpful for you. I hope you got something out of that. I'd love to hear if you have any specific feedback or thoughts about the episode. Please send me a DM on Instagram or leave a comment on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you are listening to this. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope that you have a great weekend ahead, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one.